I'm in Sydney today with Terrie Lloyd. We're at the 47th floor of the beautiful MLC Tower, which means that if you look behind us, you can see the gorgeous Sydney Harbour. But Terrie here doesn't probably get to see the Sydney Harbour too often, or the bridge,
I don't.
because he's an Australian and New Zealand dual national. We won't let the letter half of that. We won't hold that against you.
Been Australian for 30 years.
But you've spent the past 26 years building companies in Japan.
That's right.
Now, indeed, I understand that you built your first company at the age of 25.
That's right.
In Japan on a working visa.
Yeah, I was actually the working holiday visa.
Working holiday visa.
I was the first person on a working holiday visa to set up a company in either country.
Wow.
Right.
I
had a fight with the immigration.
You had a fight with the immigration officer? How long does a holiday visa last? 1 year?
6 months,
6
renewable once, maybe twice. Yeah.
So you hadn't even been there 6 months yet you were suddenly launching a business?
Yeah.
And what was
stupid.
Yeah, young and stupid, yes. I think the best companies are made by young and stupid people. I can think of one myself. What was the company? 25 years of age?
Well, I still have that company actually. It's called Link Japan, and at that stage I had these grand ambitions of setting up a global conglomerate when I was older, and I thought I should start with the first link, which was Japan, obviously being there. And as time has gone by, I've sort of dropped the feelings of grandeur and have focused on the realities of business. And many of the businesses since then have been named more specifically. But Link Japan still happens to be closely held by my family. We have shares in various other companies that we've set up over the years, and I use it to incubate new businesses.
Mm. Is setting up a business in Japan, is it a complex process?
The mechanics of it are a bit complicated, but then, you know, how often do you normally set up a company? Once or twice in a lifetime. Whereas some people will go out and get all the forms and read up all the laws and that sort of thing, I think that's kind of a waste of time. It's much easier to just go down the road and get a paralegal to put the company together for you. In Japan, it's not cheap to do that. It costs roughly about $2,000 in legal fees.
It's not particularly expensive though.
No, well, but nonetheless, so if you compare it to Australia. And then about another $2,000 in government duties and stamp duties and that kind of thing. So roughly about $4,000 Australian.
So, and 26 years ago,
yeah.
As a 25-year-old, didn't that seem daunting to you? Or did you just say there's something that needs to be, this market needs this product, and I'm here, so I'm going to do it?
Yeah, well, actually the first company that I set up did two things. My girlfriend at the time, who was Japanese, was quite good at translating, and I knew quite a bit about computers. This is 1983 is when the IBM PC was released.
Okay.
Prior to that, I worked for AWA out at North Ryde. And so I was one of the few foreigners in Japan who actually knew about PCs. Because they'd only just arrived. So my girlfriend and I decided to set up a translation company. It didn't seem to matter that I couldn't speak a lick of Japanese, but anyway.
But she could, and you could speak English, and
I knew what a
RAM was. And
yes, I knew what RAM was, and a hard disk and some other things. So we decided to go into business together. We had borrowed the money. In fact, back in '83, you needed $100,000 minimum capital. So we had to go to her parents and ask them for a loan.
Wow.
So
I thought it was tough when I said to Mum and Dad, can I move home to launch Anthill? But I didn't have to ask them for $100,000 in 1983.
Right. Well, I mean, things have changed a bit then. But yeah, age 25, yeah, we raised, we asked her parents for $100,000. Got it. We got married in the process. So.
Okay. That was part of the deal, huh?
It wasn't necessarily part of the deal, but it obviously was the closer.
Yeah. Did she ever say, "Is that all I'm worth to you?" You know.
Well, we got divorced, so I can tell you that I know that I was worth a lot more to her.
Oh dear. All right. Well, I won't go down that track. You did mention that you've built.
I'm happily married now.
You're happily married now.
Again. To another Japanese person.
Lovely. The institution is sacred.
5 daughters.
All right. You did mention that you've built and sold some other companies.
Yes, that's right.
In fact, according to my notes, you've sold 7 companies.
Correct.
You've sold 7 companies
Yes.
in 26 years, and they were described to me as earnouts.
Yes.
So rather than a sale, it was an earnout. Why did you go down that route?
Okay, well, when we...
And indeed, on 7 occasions.
Yeah, well, when we talk about an earnout can mean several different things. It might mean you get cash up front in a trade sale. It often means that you get paid over a period of time for performance. You know, I use the word earnout just simply to be an all-encompassing term. Those companies that were sold were all sold for cash or cash in stock. So they were all trade sales. I personally have not done an IPO. I've been involved in IPOs. In fact, I've made you know, some reasonable money out of IPOs, but I've not had a company on my own do an IPO. And to be honest, I'm not sure I want to do one.
Is that because of the size of the organisations when it was time to sell? So you looked at the organisation and said, perhaps this is not ready for an IPO, I'd probably be better off, and it's a lot simpler.
Well, I'm in the business of making businesses. Basically, I run an incubator, which is why I've done a number of these. And actually, I was giving a speech a few years back here in Sydney, and I'd mentioned at that time I'd set up 12 or 13 companies, and some wag down the back said, "Isn't that 12 companies too many?" You know, 13 companies. How come you're not running the first one? Companies basically grow in stages. It's not linear. And the reason why is because at some point in a company's evolution, if it's going to survive, it has to find a groove. And that groove is usually a new product, a new service, a new client, or something like that. Well, they don't happen every day. Usually they take, what, 18 months to 3 years to create. And then once you've hit that groove, then you get a solid burst of growth, which may look vertical or anyway reasonably good ramp up. And then at some point you top out. You've saturated the market, the competitors show up or whatever else. You have to repeat the process again. So most companies go through at least 3 or 4 of these. Sometimes they're aligned with funding, other times they're not. But in any case, they're very definable steps. So when would you sell a company? Well, you sell a company when you're just starting to get that ramp up, but while there's still some life in it, so that the other party can feel like they're getting some money left on the table as well.
I think as well, to a lot of the people who I speak to, there are some people who are quite comfortable and like being the CEO of a large organisation, but a lot of us are more interested in running something through that growth period. And when it gets to a certain stage, handing it off to someone else. Is that the way you feel?
I have a basic policy of selling companies when they hit around 100 people. And the reason is quite simple. You suddenly don't know everybody in the company anymore. So it doesn't really feel like you know, something that's close to you. It's more of an asset. And once you start thinking about assets, well, what are you going to do with assets? You know, you liquidate them.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of people actually forget about that. Forget about that they're building the business as an asset that they can one day sell. They might be thinking it, but then it's not necessarily part of their strategy or their mindset.
That's right. You know, the interesting thing is we're having this conversation, and it's as applicable to Australia as it is to Japan.
Oh, definitely.
And a lot of people ask me, well, you know, isn't it hard doing business in Japan? It is, but actually a lot of the fundamentals are very similar to being in Australia. So, yeah, anyway, so if I can do it, anybody can do it, sort of thing.